Hey, beautiful soul. Welcome to Beyond the Matrix, the Mystic Sisters podcast. I'm Corey.
And I'm Dana, real-life sisters who left the 9-to-5 grind to follow the stars, tune into spirit, and trust our soul's wild calling.
We talk ascension, astrology, human design, sound healing, and more, as well as what it really means to wake up in this world.
So if you've ever thought, there's got to be more than this, you're not alone. Let's go beyond the matrix and into the magic. Look at you. You're so cute.
Fix my hair. How do I look?
You look
Kinda
gorgeous, as always.
Being rainy today.
Yeah, it's
yesterday.
been raining a couple of days, yeah.
I kind of like the clouds. It has fit the mood.
It has totally fit the mood because I have been in a mood.
I'm glad I've not been here for that.
I actually had to do some peopling on Tuesday, this was a couple days ago, and I wanted to punch everyone I saw in the throat.
Really glad I was not here for that.
That's rare for me.
It is rare for you. That's
Too.
why clearly it was serious.
Something. I had an appointment in the morning, and it was just like the people helping me. I was just super annoyed by anything they did. It wasn't anything that they were doing. I was just super annoyed by it. Traffic. I was like, where are all these people at? Go home. We don't need you all anymore. Like, why are you out mid-morning on a Tuesday? And then, we had a celebration for your younger son, and which I loved being a part of. But man, everything in traffic, everything was just like, I need to go home. And, it can be attributed to a lot of things, right? So we've got Schumann resonance, off the charts, daily stuff coming in. And if you don't know what the Schumann resonance is, I highly encourage you to Google that. But it is basically the frequency and the heartbeat of the earth. And of course, we are impacted by those frequencies as well. There's always something astrological going on. And even if it's not collective, it could be personally impacting your chart. So you might be feeling something there. We've been moving into a lot of fire energy, and I do have a lot of fire energy. So that could have just sparked things up for me to like light some stuff on fire to release and purge. But I think just in general, what we're going through in the ascension process is about bringing up things that we need to release. And I am notorious for repressing emotion and feelings. I've gotten a lot better over that from the years, but I just had like all of this anger and frustration for no real reason. So we're going to talk about intuition today, but my intuition was telling me that it was more a little bit of mine, but a lot of collective frustration and anger that was being released. And so I had to reach into that toolbox, as we mentioned last time, of what the processes and the tools that we've learned to help move through some of these energies. So I like to break things. That's a good release. It can be as simple as going for a walk and picking up sticks and snapping them. That's something that Jenny has taught us. Going on a walk and being in nature and then like snapping twigs. I instead have a box of pencils from the dollar store that I will break. And I will just snap them in half, like, get that frustration out.
Did you feel better after you did that?
No. So then it wasn't enough. So then I grabbed a dish towel and, you kind of wad it up a little bit. You have to be careful because you don't want to hit your hand. But I was beating the dish towel on the cabinet and on the sink, like on the countertop, so don't get your hand too close because that would really hurt. But I was like really beating that dish towel to bits and pieces. I did feel a little bit better after all of that. And I kind of isolated for the rest of the day, which helped, just like not being in other people's energy. And then yesterday I woke up still feeling a little icky, not as dramatic as the other day, but then in the morning I was like, okay, let's journal this out. Let's like write out your feelings. And a lot of messages came through in that. And that was when I started to feel a lot better. The clouds though weren't helping my need for some sunshine, but we're moving through it. And I'm definitely doing better today.
Well, that's good. I'm glad to hear it, especially since we're together.
Yeah.
Interesting that you've felt angry. It's been a while, and I certainly think energy, but through my own process and just feeling more melancholy than anger and trying to process and understand where is that coming from. I think part of it is I've got Pluto transiting my 10th house, which is career, and that has been completely apple cart flipped and trying to figure out what that next step is and feeling overall pretty good about it. But, it ebbs and flows. And there are just certain things that I've been trying to work through, and even feeling trauma and processing inner child work. And so I've been doing a lot of meditation and journaling as well. And I, for many years, journaled for a long time and then just stopped. And really, it is very cathartic. So started journaling on that again and really woke up today feeling like energized and ready to go and ready to conquer the world and do new things and feeling my purpose. And it's been wonderful.
I love that. I'm gonna go off on a tangent
Mm.
because that's gonna happen a lot. But when you mentioned the journaling and kind of I mentioned some of the things that I was doing, one of the fun things, well, there's a lot of fun things about astrology, but when you know your chart, or at least know kind of your big three, which is your sun, your moon, and your rising signs, when you understand those elements that they're tied to, you can tap into those elements to help you through difficult times, whether that is through stress, for grounding purposes, to move through tough emotions. So for you, knowing that your moon is in Libra, which is an air sign, journaling is really great for that. Anything
Hmm.
that is breath work related, mentally stimulating, all of that is tied to air. Air is the mental realm. So, breath work also helps for you, but writing things out, journaling, all of that's going to be beneficial for if you're an air dominant sign.
So I should have been doing it for a long time ago.
Well, I mean, shoulda, coulda, woulda,
Oh, well,
right?
I am
So
now.
you're doing it now. Other things for like water signs would be being in or near water. So looking at water, if you live near water, go look at it. You could even just take a bath or get in the shower if you don't have ready access to water. That's a great way of grounding. For fire signs like me, it's candles, like lighting candles, staring into candles and meditating that way. Fire pits, fireplaces, even going out in the sun. So for me, grounding is really nice to be in the sunshine because I do have a lot of fire in me, especially in the summer, because I'm not going to light the fire in my fireplace in the so it's been really cloudy here. So when I mentioned that, the clouds and the rain is sort of hampering that mood as well for me, like amplifying it, which means I just need to get rid of the stuff. If you are an earth sign or earth dominant, then laying on the ground. We all need grounding, anything going into nature, but it can be even doubly important for those earth signs. And then let's see, I think I covered them all. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
I think it's interesting you say that because as a Scorpio and a water sign, I loved the rain. And while you were frustrated in it, I was enjoying it.
Yeah.
And I loved, I don't know, the feeling of dark and it, hunkering in at home and being cozy. But I also have Aries, which is fiery. So how do you think about when you've got different elements within all of the different primary signs that you have? How would you think about that? So again, you mentioned journaling is good for me, but again, water is also good for me and fire is good for me. So is it any and all one? How do you decide?
Yeah, I think it's any and all. I think it's try what feels good. And if that doesn't work, try something else. So for me, I broke pencils and I beat a towel because my Mars is also in a fire sign and fire needs movement. So for me, my body needs to move. I need to exercise every day to get energy out. And I'd done that, but it was like, still have trapped energy. So I was physically moving my body. And when that didn't work, I picked up the journaling, right? So you just try things until you start to feel better, like you've processed things. So it's not about repressing those emotions, but allowing them to be. I caught myself the last couple of days being very judgmental about being all grumpy. And I was like, no, you're allowed to be grumpy. It's okay to be grumpy. You don't want to take it out on people. I didn't punch anybody in the throat over the last couple of days, even though I wanted to.
Sure, they're all very glad about
I'm sure they're
that.
very glad about that. I didn't do it. So it was really about allowing myself to have the feelings, to allow them to come up. Sometimes it's important to identify the source. Sometimes you don't need to identify the source. It's just like, okay, I'm ready to release this and move on and move forward. So it's kind of trial and error and what you feel like feels good to you in that moment. You use your intuition, which we're going to talk about today, to figure out maybe where you want to start and what you want to try first.
Do you have thoughts on, you mentioned you felt a lot of it was collective versus your own, a little bit of both. I think there are a lot of people feeling a lot of things right now, and especially because there is a lot going on in the collective. Is there a way that you discern which is which?
Yeah, I have to trust how I get my information.
Okay.
So that's a great way to lead us into our discussion of the clairs. Clairs are descriptions of your intuitive abilities or your psychic abilities. How they're that sixth sense. And just like we have our physical senses, we have our metaphysical senses, as we might want to call them. So most people are very familiar with clairvoyance, and that is seeing things. So you can literally see something, or you could see through your third eye. A way to identify if this is how you get your primary way of getting information would be if you're doing a guided meditation, does it feel like you're watching a movie? Can you see pictures in your head? When you imagine, are they very vivid? You can even think in your dreams, or do you dream very vividly where you can see the colors and all of that? Then you likely are very strong in clairvoyance.
Can I interrupt for a second?
Yeah.
I think something though for a lot of people, if they're not necessarily tapped in or familiar, maybe they know the clairs and they'd say, well, none of these resonate with me. It also could be you have blocks. And part of that, and we'll talk a little bit about how we started tapping into our intuition, is through practice and exercises. So we'll have Dana talk about the clairs, but don't be concerned if you're thinking, well, none of these, I don't have any of these. You actually do, and some will resonate more than others, but there will be practicing involved to really hone in those different clairs.
Exactly. Definitely at the beginning, I couldn't tell you what I had. It was only
Mm-hmm.
through practicing that I understood, okay, this is now how it feels. Like, this is what it feels like for me. So, speaking of feelings, clairsentience is the feeling of something. So, it can show up as actual physical sensations in the body. Like, I get tingling in different parts of my body, and I have learned what each one might mean. So, I get when I'm in session often with clients, when I get tingling from my feet only up to my knees, like stops at my knees. So it's the lower part of my body gets like tinglies, like little bubbles, effervescent bubbles. That is my team saying, yes, you're on the right track. Keep going, kind of thing. So they're like little goosebumps. You could, if you hear information or news or somebody tells you something and you get body chills or something, that's your way of getting information. Your guides are telling you something. It can be literally feeling what someone else is feeling. So if somebody has a headache, you might start to get a headache if you're around them. You're like, I was feeling fine 10 minutes ago, and now I suddenly have a headache, or feeling really tired. A lot of psychics and intuitives get their information when they're doing readings of, oh, I have a sore arm. Did you injure yourself in some way in your arm? So it's really feeling that in the body. So you do need to be connected to your body and what it's telling you. Clairaudience is when you can hear things. So this one is kind of like you can literally hear someone talking to you, or if you hear voices in your head a lot, and I'm not thinking this, I feel like it sounds schizo, but I mean, like,
Well,
if you have conversations with yourself in your head, then you're likely clairaudient. If you get messages from songs, this happens to me a lot, as well as I do get information from songs. Like, I'll be having a thought as I'm driving in the car, and all of a sudden a song will come on, and the verse will be like the answer I was looking for. Or I will wake up in the mornings and have a song stuck in my head. Not every morning, but a lot of mornings. But it's just like one verse of that song repeating over and over and over. And sometimes it takes me a minute to be like, why am I singing this song? Or where
mm-hmm.
did this come from? And then I'm like, oh, there's the message in it. So that's a lot related to signs of clairaudience. Then we have clairsentience. No, I already
No,
talked
you,
about it.
uh-huh.
Claircognizance. Sorry.
Yep.
Claircognizance
Yep.
is knowing. And this is a really hard one to discern because you just sort of know stuff.
Yep.
And it often you might think you're making it up because there's not really a physical sensation or anything tied to it other than you just sort of know
I
things.
would say it also, you can get a niggling often. Like maybe you have the knowing and then you dismiss it. It will come back and it will keep kind of doing this to you until you have to acknowledge and go, okay, I got the message.
Like I hear it.
I got it.
Got it. Then I'm going to read these because these two are a little bit less common, though people do have them. We have Clairaudience. I think I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying that
I think
right.
so.
And that is clear smelling. Like you actually smell things. This has happened to me once in my life. I was working with an archangel, Archangel Shamuel, and roses are one of his symbols. And as I was in the meditation, doing this meditation with him, I started smelling roses. It was only for a few seconds, but I didn't have any flowers in my house. So if you have a loved one that has departed and you smell their perfume in the room, or maybe they were a smoker and you smell smoke, like cigars or cigarettes, then you have this ability and that's your loved one present with you in that
Yeah,
way.
this has happened to me a handful of times. And it's always at night because our guard's down. So a lot of things can happen as you're getting ready for bed or as, sleeping and waking up in the middle of the night or even early in the morning. And I would get distinct scents that would come through. It only lasts for a few seconds. I never knew who or what it was, but I knew someone was there.
Someone was there.
And I just said, okay, hello. If you need to let me know something, tell me. Otherwise, okay, I'm going to sleep.
Exactly. You're like, okay, thanks for stopping by.
Yeah, exactly.
Gotta go. And then the last one is clairgustance, and that is clear tasting. So you might taste something in your mouth. Again, these are slightly more rare. I have not had that experience, but I do know some people that have. And the smell and taste are very closely tied. So you might taste cigar smoke versus smelling it. They're very, very connected in our physical body as well. And you likely have a combination of these. So when we talk about claircognizance for me, because that's one of my strongest as well, and it is hard to discern, I have asked my team. So we have to ask. We have to ask our spirit guides, our angels, our team, that they will, because I also have clairsentience and I know this, I will have them show me in my body if I'm on the right track. If this is a real thing, if this is, not me. So that's when I talked about this tingling in my lower legs, like the messages that are coming through, I could easily think I'm making this up, but then my team will give me that signal in my body to say, no, this is right. Keep going. Keep saying what you're saying kind of thing. So oftentimes it's a combination of those.
Yeah, I would agree. If you go to any medium or channelers or whatnot, they can also help you. Heather Ivany was phenomenal. I had a session with her, and she can help you understand your clairs, and especially if you think you know what they are, but maybe aren't really sure or want it confirmed. And every person I've ever spoke to that does this sort of thing has said clairvoyance for me, claircognizance, which is, I would say, the one I tap into the most, and then some clairaudience. But I have yet to really understand the messages for the clairaudience. I'm always like, I hear music, but I don't know what to do with that.
We're still practicing. We're still practicing.
It's an ongoing.
It's a muscle that we're always trying to strengthen. Yeah. So you can, if you lift weights and then you stop lifting weights, well, then your muscle gets weaker. You have to go back. But it does have muscle memory too. So, you can rebuild it up a lot faster. So in talking about practice, what do you do to practice and get to know your clairs?
Well, I'm going to rewind a little bit from our first episode when we were talking. I think we were ending a little bit on you bought me a session, went to Jenny Hoosie. It was fantastic. And I think she would host and still hosts what we call intuitive happy hours. And this is where there's no alcohol. There's just happy because you're practicing your intuition and energy. And I think you were going pretty regularly. I think they were weekly.
Every other week.
Every other week you were going probably for about a year before I would go. And you would ask me, hey, you should come with. And I was so intimidated. And I still remember the conversation where you once again asked me and I said, I can't do it because everyone's so much more advanced than me. And I don't know what I'm doing and I'm nervous. And it was that whole idea of being in front of people and being vulnerable and not knowing what you were doing. Right. And you said, no, everyone's practicing. People are, very open and inviting, and you should just come. So I think begrudgingly, I was like, fine, I will go to one and see. And I remember the circle was fantastic because Jenny starts out talking about energy and astrology and giving you a sense of what's going on. And I love that part of it. And then she would break out practice, and practice would vary depending on the day, what she decided,
What her guides, kind
yes,
of instructed
what
her to
we would be
do.
doing. And so there were things like different cards. So these are oracle cards, and we might have to pick a card and then read for someone. There might be, we'd have to write something down and then work again. Everything was very partner related, which was great, but it was also a little scary because you were working with people you didn't know much about, which was good. And I still remember thinking, whenever we would read for someone, just blurting something out and saying, I don't know if this makes sense, or I don't know why I'm saying this, but. And inevitably, someone always got something out of it, which was fantastic. And it also helped build that confidence and that muscle of intuition. And there was a pretty steady state of every time we go, and I think it wasn't just me that would groan when we have to read for others or pick cards. Everyone was like, please don't make me do this. So we're in good company because everyone was feeling very uncomfortable. But it always turned out, again, you got something from it. There was a complete energy buzz in the room every time, which that alone was so life-giving. But you get to a point, and we went for, I would say, years going, and it then started to get to a point where, and to what you said earlier with Jenny, she said she wants you to get to a place where you don't have to go to her all the time. And so we really connected with several members of that group who we're still good friends with today. So we have our own circles, and we practice our intuition that way. And then for me, it's a daily practice. I pull a tarot card, and there are times I work with a pendulum, which we can talk about what a pendulum is. There are dowsing rods, or different ways that you can work with your intuition to help hone. So for me, that was really the beginning, and did not have the confidence to start with. I thought, I don't know what I'm doing. This is crazy. And Jenny would push and push and push. And I think that was really critical, because she could have easily had me give up and let me sulk in a corner. And she's like, no, you're doing this. And that was what I needed to keep moving forward, especially to your point with the claircognizance, because that was the one that really wanted to keep coming through. But that's the one I kept always saying, well, I don't know if this makes sense, but I'm going to tell you what's there. And the validation was really, really important. And that's something when you're working with people too, to make sure you get that validation to know, does this resonate? Does it not? And it's okay if it doesn't. And by the way, the other thing that Jenny taught, which I thought was fantastic, is that even if it doesn't resonate in the moment, it could come back weeks later. And all of a sudden, oh my gosh, what so-and-so said, I get it now. Or something comes to fruition that you didn't know was coming, which is really exciting. And so when that happens with our group, we also try to validate when that thing happens, because a lot of times the person that's maybe giving you a reading or telling you certain things, again, it really comes more from channeling, and they're not holding on to that information. So they probably forgot. So it's great when you can reach out and say, hey, by the way, you told me this and this now happened. And that is very life-giving for the person too, because I think it builds the confidence that you're trusting your intuition.
Definitely. I think it was always important to just say the first thing that came to mind. Because when you start to pause, you start to overthink it and rethink it and then question it. So it's really just like first thing that comes to mind, say it, like first thing. And that is an easier way to, know that what you're getting is you're tapping in, is you're not spending time like going over and over and over and saying like, is it a blue car? Maybe it's not a blue car. Maybe it was a yellow car. Nope, you saw blue, go with blue. And it was little things, so it was if you have a partner or a friend you want to practice this with, we practice telepathy. So it was like, think of a color and send the color to the other person. What color are they getting? Or send them a word or a number. And then, of course, we moved on to pulling cards and writing messages. And sometimes it was like you would write a question on a little piece of paper. You'd throw it in the middle. Everybody grab a piece of paper, and then you're going to answer the question that whoever you don't even know who wrote it down, but you're going to answer it
I
based on
think I
your
hated that
cards.
one the most.
Oh, I prefer that one, because if I'm looking at you, then my head starts going of all the things. I'd rather not know who I'm leaving for.
It is a little bit harder to read, I think, for friends and family. It can be, because you are more connected to them. You know more things than the average person. So it can be a little bit tricky. I will say, if you don't have someone to practice with, honestly, TikTok now has people that will do intuition. I get on there and I'll do that every once in a while. They'll have a card or what am I holding? Or that's to me just a great way to do some quick practicing.
Yeah, 100%. There's lots of things you can do on your own. You don't have to have a partner with. So, some things that you can do at home would be if you, with a regular deck of playing cards,
Hmm.
pull a black card, pull a red card, and just kind of hold them, feel them, focus on that energy. Like try to get the vibe of what does the black card feel like or sense, which is the red card. And then with them face down, go through the whole deck and say which one's red, which one's black. And if you get them pretty consistently, then you start what's a face card, what's a non-face card. So you can do this with a regular playing deck of playing cards. Other things you can do is when you're standing in an elevator bank. So you need there to be at least 2 elevators, but like decide which elevator is going to be the one that shows up first. When you're sitting at a red light in your car, see if you can figure out when it's going to go green. These are little ways that you can practice on your own. The other things you can do is if you are working with oracle cards or tarot cards, um, have a little notebook and do a spread for yourself or for someone else or for the collective and write down the information you get. You can do this by yourself and then wait and see what happens.
Yeah. And speaking of oracle cards, so there are a plethora of oracle cards. And so for us, I think when we buy them, it's what resonates with us. And the cards will have words on them. I don't know if you can see that. Probably not, but they also come with a book. So you can kind of, I would call it cheating a little bit. You can read what it says, which is great. But before you do that, when you draw a card, to Dana's point, even with the regular cards, like what's the feeling you get? What is the sentiment? Look at the colors. What's the image? Are there any little things that you can pick out of a card to get a message before you actually read what's in the message? And it may or may not be what the word says. It doesn't
Correct.
have to be. And so don't feel like if you get something different from what's the word says that you're doing it wrong. You're not. You're absolutely getting what you were supposed to get. And oftentimes after I do a reading, I try and validate with my team and ask if there's anything else that I need to know. And they'll either bring something in or they won't.
Yeah. I think the most important thing to kind of start with when you're on this journey of practicing your intuition is to ask your team, your higher self for help. So we keep saying those things like, what is that? So we all have an aspect of ourselves that is always connected to God, multiple aspects. So the one that's kind of closest to us would be our higher self. Then you go out a little bit further and you have, a monad or an oversoul. And this is all the aspects of your, the same kind of soul group family together. So I always kind of call on those aspects of myself first. I mean, they're always connected to us, but I just want to make sure, we have free will, and that is one of the universal laws. So no one's going to intervene on your behalf unless you ask them to. So I call on my higher self to be present and like, give me the information I need to know at this time, always with the intention that it's for the greatest and highest good of all involved. I will call on my team. We keep saying team a lot.
Mm.
What does your
Yeah.
team
What's your team?
consist of? It consists of guides. So these could be loved ones who passed on, or maybe loved ones you didn't know in this life, but knew in other lives, part of your soul family. This is angels, archangels, ascended masters. Ascended masters are those who have reached enlightenment. This can be your cosmic family. So any beings of the fifth, sixth dimension and higher that maybe come from other planets. So I call them my cosmic family. So these are all members of my team. If you want, you can focus in on a particular energy and start to get to know what that energy is. So, for instance, I was, like I mentioned before, at this time, I was working with Archangel Shamuel. So I go on the internet and look them up, read about them. What are other people, what are they saying about them? And then really kind of, I found some meditations associated with that. And Archangel Shamuel is associated with unconditional love. So beautiful energy to work with. For some, it comes in a more feminine form. At that time, it was more of a masculine form to me. And it's okay if it's feminine to you because we can have same but different experiences. And I understood what that energy felt like.
Mm-hmm.
So I can kind of, feel when that energy comes in, I recognize it now. You can do this with your guides. Everybody has a guardian angel. You can connect with your guardian angel and feel what that energy is like. So some people know exactly who their guides' names are. I don't. I kind of work with them as a group. Either way is fine. There's no wrong way to do it. But I always ask for their assistance in this process and every day, kind of thing. Like, just help me get through the day, people, because it's rough out there. So, but they won't step in and interject unless we ask them to, because we have free will for that. So be sure to call on them as you begin. And then we also set an energetic space. You want to talk about that?
I don't know, you're so good at it. Yeah, I think one of the things that's really important is because we talk a lot about the spirit guides and whatnot, and maybe perhaps when you were younger, and especially like us growing up Catholic, the Ouija board was off limits. It was the devil's work and it was evil and whatnot. The reality is there is good and there is not good. Um, Everything is a neutral, but there are lower entities and higher entities. And so I think whenever you are starting, you want to make sure you don't get any of the lower entities that are coming at you. So when you set your space, set your intentions, you want to clear the space, you want to only bring in that which is for your greatest and highest good. So that brings in the highest light beings. Again, your team, you're surrounded by positive energy, and that way that anything that you're doing, again, will be for your greatest and highest good and not for anything else that you maybe don't want.
So we start with protecting our energy in that way. Then we call in our guides and spirits and our higher self. And then we set the intention for whatever it is we're trying to understand. So it could be the intention of, I just want to practice my intuition. I want to practice with my deck of playing cards, red and black. Or I want to do a full reading for myself or for someone else. And then you move forward from that perspective. So I think we're at a phase, I think, in this ascension process, as we're all moving through this, that I think those lower energies are pretty much cleared out, but we are heavily influenced by the energies of other beings and people around us. So, like, even you and I love you, I love your energy, but I don't want to take on your energy. And
Mhm.
I don't want you to take on my energy either. I want us to be kind of in that sovereign bubbled space. So when I'm protecting my energy, I'm just making sure it's mine and only mine. And I'm not putting any hooks or cords into you energetically, and no one is putting them into me. That is just a clear space. So that's important
Yeah,
too.
let's maybe talk about that because we just jumped into chords and you can do cord cutting, but energy is an exchange and energy never dies. It just transfers. And so I think that's important. And even when you mentioned you were feeling collective energy and that anger, you knew it wasn't yours, but you had to process through that anyway. How do you make sure, whether it's on any given day or every day, that you make sure that you don't have other people's energy? And by the way, there could be people that intentionally try to give energy, but for the most part, I think there is an energy exchange and you don't even realize it's happened. So it's not as if I leave and Dana's like, oh, I got Corey energy. That's probably not happening, but she may say, I don't really feel like myself. Maybe that was Corey's stuff that she accidentally left behind and you have to clear.
A lot of it's unintentional. So an example might be, you got to go to the grocery store. When you're leaving your house and you're feeling fine and you're feeling good, you go to the grocery store, you get your groceries, you check out, you leave. And when you leave the grocery store, you feel weighed down, you feel irritated, just feel like, you're in a bad mood all of a sudden, and you don't even know where that came from. You just walked by and picked up somebody else's energy that was in that store. And that happens to us all. And that was a lot of what I left my house yesterday and was like, oh, I just picked up everything I went out with. So I think what I try to do, not every day is successful, but what I try to do is I start every day with a bubble of light around myself. So I just call on God, Creator, Source, and I surround myself in that bubble of light. And that light, I fill it with love, healing, and protection. So from that perspective, I'm trying to set up my energy that way. Now, we don't always have to be conscious of that, and some things kind of slip through here and there. So if I'm out and about, what I like to do when I come home is I will cleanse my energy, and you can do that simply with your intention. I like to use a little Florida water, and you can get this online, and it's in the other room. Get a little Florida water, and I put it on my hands, and then I just sort of brush it around my auric fields. We have lovely
Mhm.
things like Palo Santo that you can burn and kind of clear your own energy. Incense will do that, sage, all of these beautiful other elements that you can use and tools you can use to cleanse your energy. And I often will feel better about that. So when I was working in an office, 4 days a week, I would come home and I would just feel kind of drained and a little, even though I was doing my bubble of light, I still feel kind of like, ugh, and tired from the day. And so I would do a little cleansing activity like that. And I would feel like perked up and I would feel so much sort of better and in my own space.
Crystals can help too.
Crystals are a fantastic way to do that.
We're getting into tools, and we
We are.
actually are going to talk a lot more about tools because there are a lot of different tools. So we won't go into detail with a lot of them, but you'll hear us mention them, and eventually we'll get into the nitty-gritty of those. But there's a lot of different ways that you can help make sure that you clear yourself, you clear your energy, clear your home, protect your home. Every day, every morning, to your point, I say a little prayer about a bubble of, golden white light surrounding my kids as they go up to school. Because again, our kids, I don't necessarily think are as aware to be thinking about doing those things, but they're interacting. Think about that with teachers and kids all day. And so I want to make sure that their energy is protected. My youngest, I think, is very clairsentient and empathic, and he picks up a lot of that energy, and I think he can carry it with him. And he's also, because he's introverted, he doesn't say a lot of things, and so I think it can weigh him down. So I really try to make sure that he's protected as he goes out every single day.
And then hopefully, because again, they're boys, but hopefully at some point they will be able to do this for themselves.
Hopefully.
That they will. And again,
they still think I'm a little cuckoo. So
we also, who knows? But we are also moving into a time where we probably won't need to do this as much because everyone's going to be functioning at a higher vibrational level. And everyone will be more conscious of their energy and how they use it and how they share it and how it can get away from us sometimes. So I think, maybe by the time they're grown up, they won't need to.
I love that. I hope so.
Fingers crossed. We'll see.
Fingers crossed. In the meantime, we'll try to teach them these little tips and tricks until we don't need it anymore.
So we don't need it anymore.
Yes.
Yeah.
So anything else on intuition you want to talk about?
I think really it's just start using it, start playing with it. If you are, this was, when we were having a conversation, I was having a conversation with our mom. This was a couple of years ago, maybe. And, I would kind of like, just started saying, like I'm intuitive, I'm kind of psychic, whatever. And, I don't know that she fully believed me, but this is how you prove that everyone is if you've ever, your phone rings or you get, notification that you've got a text message and you already know who it is before you look at it. That's a form of intuition. If you have ever felt like something was wrong with a member of your family and then you suddenly get a call and something, like that's truly, or you're just thinking about someone and then they call or text you. That's telepathy. That's a form of your intuition. That's, that's all of this tied together.
And if you ever say, "Oh, I knew it," well, you knew it.
Well, you knew it.
You did know it.
You were very excited about that.
Sorry, that happens frequently when I was at work, and one of my best friends, she says stuff all the time, and our constant comment is, "Get out of my head," because we are practicing telepathy, and most people wouldn't call it that, right? Oh. But it is. And I think we certainly are very intuitive with one another. So
yes, often those people that you're close with, you're most connected to. So it is funny. So if you ever say I knew it, then you did. You did know it.
You absolutely did. And I'll bring in just a little human design on this. So in a human design body graph, our intuition lives in the splenic center, and it's also the fear center. And so that it's interesting because you also have to be careful because there are times that you can think it's your intuition, say it's a fight or flight, and you're feeling, let's say first you think it's your intuition that someone's following you. But perhaps it also could be fear because it's at night, you're in the parking lot alone, and the fear is coming up. So you also need to be able to discern, is it fear or is it intuition? And I think a lot of times it's best to practice that intuition when you're not in maybe a tense situation or a stress-filled situation, because it might be your intuition. There could be someone there and you're trying to, practice safety, or maybe not. And it's just, I don't want to say paranoia, but maybe you had a previous experience that's drawing in on that fear. And so you have to be careful. So when you think human design, it could be one, it could be both. so part of that is also really listening to yourself and asking yourself, is this fear coming up or not? And if you say, no, I don't feel afraid, then that probably is your intuition. But sometimes you have to ask yourself just to make sure that you're tuning in correctly.
Got it. That's a good point to ask yourself, is this fear?
And don't even get me started, because if you have an undefined spleen versus defined spleen, that's a whole other set. So if you want to know more about human design, ping me and I'll tell you all you want to know.
It's fascinating and complex to those of us who don't understand it, but love it. Like, love what I've learned about myself through it. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that wraps it up for intuition.
I think for intuition, I think we're doing pretty good.
How about in close of intuition? Ooh. What if we pulled a card? We can each pull a card and share with you guys what we get. So is there any kind of question that you can think of? We're in May.
What do you feel like the audience needs to know at this time?
Well, you know what? We'll just ask that.
I mean, let's keep it simple.
Okay. I love it. So the card that I drew is one of my favorite cards. It's got a unicorn on it. See if you can see it without the glare. It's got a unicorn on it, and it shows gateway. And really what I'm getting from this is there are places all over the world where we're making connections with outer world beings. And I think more and more of that is continuing to come to light. And if you aren't connecting yet with what do they like to be called?
Off-worlders.
Off-worlders. You might be sooner than you think, but this is an opportunity for us, again, to connect beyond what we cannot see. And I think that's really exciting.
That tells me unicorns are real.
I absolutely believe unicorns are real, and I believe they are a part of the outer world of the world that we won't get into here, but I think they do exist, and who knows, maybe you'll get to ride one day.
Fingers crossed.
Because you do love horses.
I do.
Do you want to?
I mean, I don't know that I could make anything better than that, but we'll just see if there's anything else
to add.
Anything else. See, this is what it feels like in practice when you're like, I don't want to do it.
Yep. But we make you.
Do it.
I know.
You have to push me.
You have to do it.
I do, yeah.
Well, Dana didn't even talk about how she practiced her intuition reading tarot for people for, was it a year? Did you do it for a year?
About 8 months. About 8 months, not quite a year.
Going to fairs and reading tarot, 15-minute sessions for people?
Yeah, specifically the Dallas Psychic Fair.
Yeah.
I was a psychic listed.
Yep.
And read for folks. First Sunday of every month. If you're interested in the Dallas area, they're still doing it. Sign up.
Well, and you still also do it.
I do. Just
it's more rare.
It's for clients specifically, like appointment, by appointment only. I don't do the fair anymore.
Yes.
But I do read for clients by appointment only. Yes.
And that's a great way to practice. If you really want to jump head first, like she did, go read at a psychic fair.
You talked about Jenny, how she pushes you. She was like, okay, you need to do this now. Like, it's time. Like, you got to go do it.
I'm glad she didn't say that to me. I'd be like, oh, hell no, I'm not doing that.
Well, and it was an amazing form of practice. It was exactly what she said it would be. And it makes you trust yourself very quickly. It's boot camp, essentially, because you're back to back with people and you only have 15 minutes with them. There's no time to second guess the information you're getting. There's no chance to overthink it. It's like, here's what I'm seeing, here's what's coming through, on your way, kind of thing.
And I think before you would do that, we talked about setting intention. You'd set the intention that people would get what they needed to get.
Exactly what they needed, yeah.
So you have to trust that.
For sure.
Okay. So what'd you get?
What
are we going to trust?
The truth card that you had pulled up earlier. So this is the second time we're getting this card today. I think this was an example card, or it was a different tree. Sorry. It was a
different tree.
Still
a tree.
Still true. So we've got two trees here. So when you're looking at these cards, and I'm not going to look at the book like Corey didn't look at the book, it's the first thing that comes to mind, but it's also, what does it represent to you? So trees for Corey represents growth. Trees to me represent connection and community. So if we think of the roots of the tree, this is what it means to me. The roots of the trees spread out, and there's been lots of scientific studies in forests. All of these roots are connected. So all of these trees are connected to one another, and that's how I envision us and humanity is all connected to each other. So when I see truth, this is what we're talking about. It's what we're trying to share, our truths. Truth is not it is subjective. So from that perspective, we're sharing our truths and our experiences. But this idea of through sharing in that way, we can hopefully build that community and connect with people. So that's really what I'm seeing from this. And what I'm getting is this is also to me, this very windy. So this is winds of change. I'm a little bit rambling here, but tying into what card you got is we are in the midst of a lot of change and winds of change and lots of truths being exposed. So it is really important when you talk about discernment is understanding when we say take what resonates, what feels true to you, and take that. And if something does not feel true to you, then leave it and don't buy into it, especially with what is talked about in traditional media and even non-traditional media. It's really, you have to discern for yourself what feels true for you, what feels good in your body, what you're like, yep, that feels right to me, or there's some sketch about that. I don't think that's really true. So it is practicing that discernment as we go through the winds of change and finding that community that you can feel connected to and supported by.
I think that's beautiful. It resonated with me. And speaking of resonating, I think that's a great point to share is that, by the way, I follow a lot of different people and I don't resonate with them 100% of the time. And even in one setting, they could be saying one thing that I say, yes, I agree with, and then flip and say another thing and I say, I don't agree with. And that's okay. And it doesn't mean it's right or wrong. To Dana's point, it's their truth. And I love how you put this before we close is, would you say you are the star of your own show?
The main character.
The main character of your own story, right? And I think that's 100% true. And we forget that. While we're all interconnected, we are each the main character of our own story. And so remember that. So what, again, is true for you may not be for someone else, and that's okay, or vice versa. But we're all living in our own perception. So
100%.
Take that and do with it what you will.
Exactly.
All right. Love it. Well, thanks, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. It's great to see you, and we look forward to seeing you on our next episode. Take care.
Bye. Thanks for joining us on Beyond the Matrix, the Mystic Sisters podcast. If today's episode lit something up in you, don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review, and share this with your fellow soul seekers. You can find us on Instagram at Mystic Sisters Podcast for more magic, behind the scenes, and cosmic updates.
If you're feeling the pull to go deeper, we each offer personal guidance through our individual practices. You'll find all the details in the show notes, and if it's meant to be, we trust you'll feel it. Until next time, keep following the magic. The content we share reflects our personal experiences, insights, and opinions. We're not medical, legal, or financial professionals, and we encourage you to always do your own research, trust your intuition, and seek guidance from qualified experts when needed. Take what resonates and leave the rest. This journey is yours to explore.